like to ask you for just a moment to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Here's the situation. You've just graduated from college. You've got a 5-year degree that you've worked really hard to attain, and you come to work for a company that's putting you in a consultant role. And yesterday morning, your second week on the job, yesterday morning you got up at 3 a.m. so that you could catch a flight for what was supposed to be a 10-hour day so that you could go out and be in the field with one of your new clients. Turned into a 24-hour day because of a number of things, mainly flight issues. So you came in at 3 in the morning after having left at 3 in the morning, 24 hours. You crawl into bed and you know you've got a meeting that you need to attend at noon, so you get up and you make it into the office about 11:30. You notice some people look at you kind of sideways as you do, and ultimately you leave at about 4:30 because you're beat. You have to get home and get a little bit of sleep and eat and get yourself recalibrated. Well, you find out at the end of that week, as you're getting ready as a consultant to put your time into the system, that your manager tells you because you only worked 4 hours on the day that you returned from your trip, you have to make up for the other 4 hours by pulling 4 hours from your PTO bank. And you tried to wrap your head around that as an employee and had a challenge with that. Not only that, at the end of that week, when you were leafing through or actually looking through the intranet at the policies that the company had, you found that as an exempt employee, you were required to work no less than 55 hours a week. Well, you had that nailed because you had just worked about 70 hours in 1 week, but you also had to pull 4 hours out of your PTO bank to round out that one short day. Okay, now put yourself in my shoes. I am my 3rd week on the job as well. This person and I started on almost the same day, and I've just taken on the role of being the person to build an HR function within MyRyan, which is a global tax advisory firm. This takes back about 12 years. This really literally happened. The story was told to me by this individual who said, what does this mean? I don't understand how this works. And as an HR person, I couldn't say what I wanted to say. As an individual, it doesn't make sense to me either. But I had to go, well, let me figure this out. I'm trying to wrap my head around what you just shared with me. I will get back to you. So that's where we started, and that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit today. What it was like to be in an organization that did a 180, moving from a very draconian approach to the way that it handled people to one that is considered to be fairly revolutionary. So I'm just going to tell you a little snippet of our story and what happened during the last 12 years and a couple of the key things that we focused on that helped us basically sustain. The title of my presentation has to do with the rise and fall of workplace flexibility. I could have put a slide up here that had a number of logos of companies that we've heard about as HR folks who've kind of done that yo-yo approach to flexibility. Here you go, you've got it. No, come back in. We want you in the office. We've got hoteling. No, we don't. Everybody's here. My husband actually works for one of those companies. Well, MyRyan has managed to stick with workplace flexibility for the last 7 or so years, but it's been a really rough journey and a rocky one, so I'll share a little bit of wisdom there. We really got tired of, our CEO got tired of hearing about the B word, the balance word in exit interviews and when people would come to him to talk about how tough it was to work at MyRyan. And he was the one who, when I approached him with the story that I shared just a moment ago to try to understand where his head was, he said, well, Delta, I said, wouldn't it make sense to at least let people to stretch their hours out so that they can work those hours any way they want to during a week? And if 55 hours is what we're requiring, which again, I didn't understand that, but didn't want to fight that battle, so that it didn't matter, that 4-hour day. And he said, but Delta, that would be flex. So he was totally not open to the concept of flexibility, but he really got tired of hearing about it. I had gotten him to let us have a team that was focused on it. And for 3 years, we were working on different ways that we could loosen up just a little bit and move into this century. Well, one day, finally, that tipping point occurred for him, and that was an individual who was a manager who was very young, came into his office, and she said, Brent, I love this company, I love the challenge, but here's my resignation. I'm leaving. I've got an opportunity. I'm getting ready to start a family, just got married, and I can't do that here. It just doesn't work for me. Well, we got her to stay. She's still with us today. She has 2 kids, and she's a principal, and she became one of the members of the team that ultimately built MyRyan, which is one of the most flexible workplaces that there is in our industry. Basically, at our company, and again, it's called MyRyan, the program is, our employees can work anywhere, anytime, as long as they get the job done. There is no focus on face time, which used to be the case. And we were really proud of ourselves. We did not light switch it. And I've met some people from companies who've decided we're going to do flexibility, and they just do it overnight. And I say, okay, we're flexible, and there's nothing more than that. We did not take that approach. We took 6 months after our CEO made the decision that we could move forward. And as an HR person, I was shocked. I was ready for him to let me have that poor person that had the 4 hours they had to pull from the PTO bank to just at least have the flexibility. He said, no, Delta, design something where people can work anywhere, anytime. So he took it all the way to the other side. And it was an amazing journey to do that. So we really took it very seriously. We have a lot of accountants. We have a lot of lawyers in our environment, a lot of people who are very, very smart. We pulled a cross-functional team together. We didn't just go behind closed doors as HR and make this happen. We did this together. And we made sure that we checked everything. We had training put together. We had the policies. We had the processes. We even ran a pilot in Houston where we had our largest turnover. Our turnover was at about 24% voluntary when we started, and that was not, it's about the same as our competitors, but it was getting too high. Houston was about 32%, so we started there. But we kind of forgot one thing. We didn't forget completely. We knew about these people, those, if I can't see, you're not working managers that would be in our environment. We anticipated them. So what we did when we rolled this out to the management team, our CEO and I together co-presented, and we basically said, guys, we know there are some of you have even told us that you hate what we're doing. You think we're crazy. We're going to run the company into the ground. And some of you are pretty sure are going to be kind of maliciously compliant. You'll be sitting back there waiting for it to fail. But we know you're out there. And the bottom line is our Career Assistance Center stands ready to help folks transfer to other teams if they cannot live on your team because you don't get with the program. So get with the program or you're going to have challenges. That was the extent of what we did. Was that enough? No, it really wasn't. We needed to help these people out. This is the biggest mistake that we made. We knew that we needed to help these individuals have intelligent conversations, but also to look in the mirror and figure out some of the paradigms that they held that needed to be changed. Because what was happening, and it didn't take very long, it was predictable enough, we started hearing stories about those individuals on teams who were suffering because, yeah, great, this MyRyan thing is wonderful, but what about the rest of our team? We're sitting here like this, and we're seeing other people that are coming and going. They aren't made to feel guilty if they decide to go to their kid's soccer game, and they get to sleep in if they come in at midnight. What about us? So we had a lot of work to do. Basically, trust was being broken, and one of our key values, core values, one of our 7 core values as a company is trust. Relationships are everything. So the trust in the company was being hurt by these individuals, the trust in the managers, basically a problem all the way around. Now this focus that we had on FaceTime was very precious to many people in the company. People wore hours like a badge. In fact, every year when we did talent review, the very first metric we looked at was how many hours an individual had put in during the last review period. We literally sorted that on an Excel spreadsheet outside of the talent review system. And that was ingrained. People would wear their hours like badges or tattoos on their foreheads. One of the first, when I became involved in HR, one of the HR folks that came to me, that was the first thing she shared with me. She said, I was number 10 last year. I was like, you were number 10 in what? Congratulations. And she said, hours. And I was like, what do you mean? And when she told me, that was again during that first month, I was pretty shocked. But that was a hard paradigm to break. People were focused on how much time was put in FaceTime and not results. That guilty look that you get, or that you feel, that guilty feeling you get when somebody looks at you if you get off the elevator, that was happening a lot at a non-standard time. Or if you get up from your desk at 2 o'clock to leave, there were clock watchers all around, and they were still there. It's a hard thing to break. Some of them were more open about it. Others were a little bit more subtle, but it was definitely there. So what we had to do was really talk to these managers and make sure that we beefed up the approach that we took to training related to some of those paradigms that exist. I can be sitting right next to someone in an office, a cube, who on the surface may be working. Now this person, granted, is not apparently working, but people can be more subtle about it. How many people do you know who are very good at looking incredibly busy and productive, and yet based on the results you get from them, they are not? It really doesn't matter where you are. In fact, the person who, and this is one of our principals who allowed us to do a photo shoot with her, people who are working on the beach, who are working at home with a kid in their lap or a cat on the couch and wearing their PJs can be just as productive as someone else. It's about results. It's not about where you are. So these are the pink fuzzy slippers that someone is probably wearing somewhere at this very moment and working for Ryan and not feeling guilty about it at all. So what we decided to do, we had a problem, and that was that we had to work with our managers to help them achieve success. And so we worked with a group that was out of Boston College, Family and Work Center, participated in a study that focused on manager resistance to workplace flexibility and the change associated with that. That was an incredible experience for us because it allowed us to get the data that we needed to create approaches for them to work with so that they could have those intelligent conversations. And we discovered, Bobby, a new kind of diversity for us. I appreciate all the remarks that you made about diversity that's outside the fixed box. And one of the things that we discovered is that there is a diversity related to preferences as related to work and where we spend our time. There are differences. We had done a really good job of working with Myers-Briggs tools to equip our leaders and our individuals, becoming very clear about their own work, their own patterns as far as the way they think and operate. That's a diversity in and of itself. And we'd even taken it so far as to create a class called Team Insights that your individual team can get together and figure out what is our personality as a team, what are our strengths and our weaknesses, how do we complement each other. That was all well and good, but this work style preference was new to us. So using a book that's called CEO of Me that was written by Ellen Kosick with one of her colleagues, we were able to help our employees and managers especially figure out that there are really two types of us and some variances in between. There are those of us who are integrators in life. We integrate our work with our play, everything mixes together and it's not a problem for us. For others, there are separators. They put boxes around work and boxes around their personal lives, and that's okay. Just like with Myers-Briggs, my style, there are 16 styles, is different from many of you in this room. There's nothing wrong with that. But we had to help them understand how that works and impacts in the workplace. So that if I have somebody who prefers to work in their slippers at night or come in late and stay late, and I like to be there first with my car in the parking lot, I shouldn't judge you by that. And that's actually a picture I took of my car in the parking lot one night. You can guess what kind of a style I am. But it really inside of you, and I am a champion of this, but there are times when you just that human thing kicks in and you have these feelings, well, my car is still here. Where's everybody else's? Why me? And that's something that we have to really focus on as managers. So what we ended up with after all that introspection and study is a blueprint that we were able to give all of our teams so that they come together as a working team and decide in this MyRyan environment that we've got, where we've got all this diversity, how are we going to work together as a team? How can we be effective and value each other and respect each other with our work styles? What is it going to look like when we socialize? There's a team in Dallas that I'm aware of that has decided that one of their ground rules is that 2 times a week they will all be together in the office for at least 4 hours. And every team is a little different in that respect, but the tool that we were able to create, it's only an hour and a half discussion, is an incredible thing that helps them focus on those conversations. Teams that make that work are very, very effective. Now, intelligent conversations about results. It's all well and good for me to sit here and say, when you sit down and review someone, focus on results, not hours. Now, how helpful is that if you don't have something to look at? Well, fortunately at Ryan, we had a lot of metrics scattered around, but they hadn't been pulled together. And it took us about a year after we implemented MyRyan in 2008 to get a dashboard together that allows our managers and employees to see what their results are. This is not the dashboard itself, but these are the components that feed into that dashboard. Every day, people can log on into our intranet and click a button that takes them straight to their dashboard, and it has these components in it. If they're revenue producing, it has their revenue targets, what their benchmark is, what they've achieved year to date, where they stand, and what percentage they've got tied to that. If they are non-revenue producing and they have goals, which we do, that are incentive-based. It shows them where they stand on their goals. And also client satisfaction ratings, those scores feed in. We have internal and external client satisfaction ratings. I'm the president of our Global Shared Services Division, and all of our employees, there are about 200 of us, twice a year have a survey that goes out to everyone we serve within the company, and we get ratings for that, feeds that, and we're incented financially as well. Performance appraisal ratings, and we're like everyone else who's retooling that process. And if you're a leader, any type of 360 or feedback that you're getting from an upward feedback, those scores feed in as well. These are all ranked differently, they're weighted differently, and they feed that dashboard. So at the end of the day, in addition to looking in the mirror as a manager, as a leader, and figuring out what paradigms I hold that might hold me back, that is a gift that we gave to all of our managers so that they can work to become more effective in this environment. That, combined with the ability to have those intelligent conversations, has been incredibly helpful. And work can happen no matter where. So the fuzzy slippers have become kind of a symbol of ours, and we talk about fuzzy slippers a lot when we're working through some issues that pop up on teams. Now, let's talk about those things that matter to a CEO, the ROI, metrics, and that's the bottom line. When I have a conversation or a sell to make to my CEO, I do not start with the heart. I start with the head, and I start with what we are trying to accomplish as a business. I agree. As HR folks, we cannot accomplish anything without making sure we're completely aligned and we're not just in there with the violin playing. That does not work with CEOs. Satisfied clients, that's the number one thing for our company, and I think for most companies. If your clients are happy and they're returning, that means that you're going to sustain. And we have, at this point, this was from year-end last year, almost a 98. We're at 98.5 this year on our client satisfaction ratings. Engaged employees, critical. You have to have employees who, and I agree, not happy, but they're engaged. They like the work. We participate in the Fortune Great Place to Work survey and have since 2004, which we miserably lost for many years, but we used all that data to figure out what we need to do to get where we are today. And you have to make sure that as a result of that, that turnover is low. Today, our voluntary turnover is 3.2%. In an industry where we have attorneys, we have MBAs, we have 80% of our folks with very advanced degrees, and that's unheard of in our industry, not where we started 10 plus years ago. And then finally, you have to have a happy CEO, and what makes a CEO happy? Money, and that's the bottom line. Now, I'm not the person that's going to bring the money in the door, but I can definitely have a huge influence on making sure that my entire organization, and HR is specifically, which is where my heart truly is, it's where I've spent most of my years, is doing its job to do all the things we've talked about today, ensuring that our people, we're hiring the right people, we're growing them, we're engaging them, retaining them, and that we're aligning to the success of the business because we know what the vision is and what the mission is. We as companies have to recognize, and as human resources professionals, that we have to treat our employees exactly as we want them to treat our clients. Because if we do that, we're going to keep them. And we have to realize we get the whole person through the door. We get their backs and their hands, their minds and their hearts. And they're all at different stages in their lives. Excuse me. And we have to make sure that we are doing the very best we can to keep them long term, because if we do that, they're going to help us succeed. Thank you.